Hello, this is my book, Kurson. My name is Amy, and I'm going to read you a chapter sample of my sci-fi book. Here is the back. All right. The prologue. It was the year 4372, 2,348 years into the future. Over 80 generations had endured for the noble house of Drax, where technology was used for furthering scientific research, which led to bionic implants and enhancement. Society had come up with holograms as standard communication. The world was very clean in the cities that held the economic edge and housed the ancient dynasties. They retained fortunes and power, keeping the relevance intact. Many planets were involved in politics, starting with the planet Kurson. A great religious influence was also a part of this world, holding kinetic energy that was inherited every few generations. When a child of 18 showed any signs of the gift, a test was undergone to determine if the individual would possess the mental power to move things with their mind, even have telepathic abilities. This was a year that was foretelling of such a person that would do just that, and another that wanted more. Chapter 1. The Beginning. The sun was setting on the eve of the Meridian Festival, which marked the third year without the religious leaders of the Meridian finding someone that possessed the inheritance of mind power, at least not someone who had the foreseen natural ability. There were always those that possessed just enough to get tested, but not anyone with the rare gift that they were searching for. The angelic beings of the Meridian were not human. They wear brightly colored clothing with robes in soft, raw silks, long, beautiful white or black-colored hair with white eyelashes. There were symbols in a birthmark on either side of their bright blue and green eyes in moon shapes and stars. Some had these symbols going down their backs, and their skin was a shimmering grayish pink. No one seemed to be able to resist their beauty, and all who knew them felt the pure peace and power of the Meridian. They came from one of the 3 moons of the planet Kurson, which is where the economic system of society in which the House of Drax was located in a stone castle. Drake's castle had been there for centuries and was given as an inheritance to the only male deemed worthy, Colwyn Drax and his wife Zira. She was a gorgeous woman of small build and fairly short, with silky golden blonde hair, who gave him 3 daughters and 1 son, heir to the Drax line. Colwyn had thick jet black hair and crystal gray eyes, giving the 2 older daughters the same jet black hair. Talira was tall, like her father, with slender build and the same crystal gray eyes of her father, 25 years old. Diana was of average height with a rounder frame, and she had hazel brown eyes but no gold flecks, 20 years old. Their long, thick, silky black hair was admired. Talira wore hers up and off her face in beautiful clips, while Diana wore hers down in many beautiful variations of braids over her thick, loose hair, pulled off her face, which usually shone in the sun. The youngest of the Drake's children were twins, Davron and his sister Kinley, both 18 years old, with the same thick golden blonde hair of their mother, with Kinley having her mother's hazel brown eyes with flecks of gold, and Davron's were the same as their father's crystal gray eyes. When people looked at the twins, they were both so adored. Kinley, being small in height and slender in build, had beauty that would shame the stars. Yet she would never capitalized it. She would often just wear minimal clothing and no makeup unless instructed to by their mother for an event. Davron was tall like his father and lean with such striking crystal gray eyes that all the women took notice of him, just like women had towards his father Colwyn of all of his life and still did. Zira bore her first husband, William Zulfi, who had died of a mysterious illness prior to meeting her new husband, two older twin sons, Orzo and Nanaki Zulfi, who were fighting in the ongoing war on planet Oscar. The twins looked just like their mother Zira, with the same hair and eyes as Zira. Taking after William with the tall, stocky build of their father, they were 28 years old. There never seemed to be peace between the other political leaders except for the House of Banarasi, which were descendants of Terra from Thailand. Banarasi was the first house dynasty that inhabited the planet Oscar, which was situated in the main capital city called Veratrin. This is where all the negotiations for the political peace talks were held. The city of Veratrin was a known sanctuary. Anyone who brought weapons into the city had to check their weapons at the borders on all sides. All weapons would be given back upon departure. Anyone who was caught violating this was arrested. There were, of course, other political senate buildings on various planets through the Multi-Galactic Peace Treaty Act, which had formed a confederation of government that spread throughout the galaxy. The reason for the war in Oscar originated many centuries ago, out of the jealousy between different planet races, as well as many races from all through the galaxies who thought they were better somehow than others, and different ideas of how to govern their planets. It was agreed upon that Oscar was the planet designated was designated as the war zone to protect the galactic government and its people. There was so much bitterness from both sides, with a strong prejudice for the other. The sad part was that anyone who lived on the planet was only protected when they were in the capital city of Veratrin. Outside of the city, there were various villages and small trade places, but they were at risk for being in the line of fire from the war. There were military enforcement that went throughout the galaxy to enforce the peace, but they were not always successful. The Meridyne had a training facility on planet Kurson, where chosen people who possessed the power of the Meridyne would go to become freedom fighters, learning how to use their powers of light for good to stop the evil factions. The Meridyne powers in an individual could only get corrupted by letting go of the light and purity in your soul and letting the darkness creep in and break pieces of your soul, twisting it into a dark and rare entity that had a mind of its own. A person who possessed the light and purity of the Meridyne had the guidance of the healing and strength of generations of good forces, telling them which way to go and what was needed to achieve peace. Not all people possessed the Meridyne light forces from the angelic beings, but if you did, you could go and be trained. There were also people who would choose to go to the training academy to be trained in combat to join the Galactic Freedom Fighters. They didn't just enforce peace, they were there to stop the evil ones. Non-Meridyne gifted people could go to the training center to train in combat, but they were limited to physical combat and weapons training as well as survival training. There was a different center where Meridian-gifted people could choose to get trained at the healing center on the third moon of planet Curzon called Florentina to become doctors, otherwise known as Great Meridyne Healers, and use their purity to work in the hospitals. When healers were done with their training, there were opportunities to go to any planet to join hospitals or to be healers for the wounded on Oscar on the front lines. Some were personally employed to be the personal doctor for a family or a group, usually wealthy. A son of Banarasi named Rune, an Asian Thai male from the planet Terra, who was medium build and above average height with dark brown eyes and short stylish hair, was up for his testing as well. A few others, such as the daughter of Mason from planet Illyria named Winnell, a female with light copper hair with green eyes with blue flecks, above average height with a slender build. The son of Tristerin, named Zevir, an Egyptian male from the planet Terra, with golden brown eyes and dark brown hair, tall in stature with a fit physique. The son of Grazer, named Thraeos, origins from the Viking side of planet Illyria, as well as the second moon of planet Kurson called Virith, a male with long brown Viking braided hair, with beautifully strong bone structure, nicely groomed stubble on his handsome face, tall in height and very fit physique, which left, of course, the son of Draex, Davron, from the planet Kurson. Walking down the long stone hallways laden with beautiful light fixtures on the wall, Colwyn headed towards his son's room with haste. Colwyn had just left his first daughter's room to Lyra, who was getting ready to meet up with their mother to discuss wedding plans for the second oldest daughter, Diana. Diana was to be wed to a prominent son from the House of Sparrow, from planet Kurson named Garrus, above average height, with a minimum build that showed that he didn't prioritize his looks. Slicked back dirty blonde hair, with pieces of hair that always fell over his honey brown eyes, no matter how many times he pushed his hair out of his face that complemented his gently stubbled face. They were marrying to protect themselves from their parents' scrutiny of getting chosen to join the matchmaker ball and find a horrible, boring mate. At least that was how they viewed it, until one day last spring, when Garrus was under the spell of love's first kiss that they always thought they were immune to. Diana and Garrus were actually quite suited to each other and had known each other since childhood. They were both 20 years old and well within time and age to get married. In this society, you become eligible to marry at 18 and go off to war, or go to the training academy for military training, or go learn with the Meridyne to become a nurse or healer, or the honing of mental powers. Colwyn and his wife Zero's third daughter, Kinley, had chosen to train at the medical training center at the Meridyne estate on planet Curzon's third moon, Florentina. She had already had her testing to see her Meridyne levels. Colwyn had now approached his son Davron's bedroom door, knocking as he waited for an answer. The heavy, dark wooden door opened to his son Davron's tutor, Glycinda Frankel. "My lord, may I help you? Is it urgent? For the hour approaches very soon. To your son's testing appointment?" she asked expectantly with her big caramel brown eyes, a nervous look in them as Glycinda tried not to notice the beauty in Colwyn's eyes. "I am here to see my son before heading to work," Colwyn said as he smiled politely, then looked around her slightly for a glimpse of his youngest child, son Davron of Draex. "I am here, father," Davron said softly in his deep but gentle voice. "Ah, good. So, my boy, are you ready to take the test? Don't be afraid. It's going to be exactly as it's supposed to be," Colwyn said as he smiled and stepped closer to his son, then grabbing his shoulder gently, he gave it a pat, looking at his son with pride. Davron nodded nervously, then sat back down in the wooden leather-covered chair by the fireplace. With that, he walked away, nodding to Glycinda Franco, who smiled her sultry eyes as Colwyn was flattered slightly, but continued towards the door, walking out, closing the door behind him. Walking through Draex Castle's big wooden doors, Zira Draex, wife of Colwyn and mother to his children, saw her husband as he was walking towards the shuttle going to the business tech sector of the city. "Colwyn, please be home in time for dinner," Zira called out to her husband as the shuttle doors whizzed open. "Yes, I will," Colwyn called back to her lovingly, stepping into the shuttle as the doors closed behind him. Colwyn was the CEO for the biotech company that revolutionized the biotech industry, making it possible to create the bionic enhanced implants and other cyber devices that made this world what it was in this age, which was located in the heart of the downtown core in a big high-rise building with the name Drex Biotech Incorporated. In another building in the biotech sector, Colwyn also was the founder of the Cybernet building, where the company's scientists and bioengineers had made synthetic androids that looked and acted just like real people. They looked so real that the only way you could tell that they were androids were their eyes. There was a mechanical sound to the eyes, and the shine and beauty in the cyber eyes looked like you were looking into pure beauty. Zero Drax walked down the stone hallways of the castle with determination in every step towards the doors that opened onto the garden courtyard, where a bunch of the ladies in the family were waiting for her, along with the second most prestigious wedding planner in the galaxy next to herself, who was the first. At least that is what she had been told by her assistant Siramari Telegar. Zero was a top galaxy-renowned matchmaker, but had never hired a wedding planner for her own daughter. The eldest daughter, Talia, was a wedding planner in training, but she was too new to be working on her sister's wedding. But she was there to help and observe. Zero was head of the matchmakers on their planet of Kurson, running her own wedding planner matchmaking company, but that was not her only speciality. She was a fantastic cook. Not only was she an overseer of the matchmaking company, she also ran a catering company. Both the matchmakers and the catering company were known and sought out throughout the galaxy. Diana was an apprentice in the catering company and shared her mother's talent. Upon walking into the courtyard, Zero was showered with flower petals that fell from the tree above one of the crystal tables. The flower petals were pinks and purples from a tree that was native to Kurson. It was Zero's favorite flowered trees, so naturally they had been planted all over the castle grounds. When there wasn't a tablecloth on the crystal tables, there were the most beautiful prism-colored rainbows that shone through them on the ground and the walls surrounding the tables. Zero's eyes scanned the ladies for her second daughter, Diana, who didn't seem to be there yet. This put a small frown upon her face for a moment, until the wooden doors of the castle that led to the courtyard suddenly opened to have her two oldest daughters walk through them. Talira and Diana. This made their mother Zero grin from ear to ear. She walked over to them and embraced them, both lovingly, with such motherly warmth. Pulling away from hugging Talira, Zero asked, "My dear, where were you both? This is a big day," she asked her eldest daughter with concern on being punctual. She wanted to make a good impression with the wedding planner she hired. Kinley had already arrived to be part of things for a short while. Kinley, the youngest daughter, was currently undergoing healing training at the Meridian Center, but was going into the center for schooling after spending time with the ladies. She had gotten special permission to be there during the wedding preparations. Weddings were a very important part of their society. "Mother, I was just letting Diana get herself ready for this little meeting, helping her with her hair. I also lent her my crystal bracelet from our father's mother to help calm Dee's nerves. Sorry that we were not on time, Mother. These things can't be helped. Father came and talked to us before he left, giving Diana a hug and wishing her blessings with the wedding plans. Father looked a bit nervous. I am assuming that he is just wondering how Devron's testing will go today," Talira told her mother. As she went to sit down at one of the 3 tables that were set up for the breakfast meeting. It had been set up for the ladies of the house with a wedding planner, Miss Regina Vaughn, and of course Zero's assistant, Sir Mari. Talira sat next to her baby sister Kinley and wrapped her slender arms around her, holding her tight. Kinley and her twin brother Davron were 18 years of age and technically ready to venture out into the world, but Zira was hoping that they would stay close by and not leave them too soon. "Mom, Talira's hugging me too tightly again," Kinley whined as Zira glanced over at two of her daughters, then looked over at her assistant Siramari, who was opening up her holotab notebook. That was a book that you could write in that was computerized like a small tablet, but it could be displayed with holograms so that everyone could either see what was drawn or written, or it would animate a video message that was recorded as a hologram message so that it could be seen for all who received it. Hologram tech was a huge industry that was run by Silver Mason, father of Winnell, who was to be taking the test today for the Meridyne. It was run on the planet Illyria. The Mason family were the founders of the hologram tech company, which was responsible for all communication throughout the galaxy. There was a new hologram project that let a family member or spouse feel the hologram of the pregnant belly of a pregnant woman. You would place your holo bracer on your arm, then activate the program that puts a hologram of the baby in the growing womb over your body. This allows the wearer to experience the pregnancy with the mother. Also, you could see right into the womb and see the pregnancy stages of development. It was very cutting-edge tech that hadn't been on the market long, but all the young ladies at the company all wished to try it out someday. So, ladies, last time Diana and I spoke over holograms. Prior to our meeting, we decided on having the wedding in the garden wedding venue on Narvis 4, which, as we know, is a very beautiful and prestigious wedding spot. That planet also is a sought-after honeymoon destination with many hotels and beaches with a lovely food district. One of my 3 restaurants is located in the food district, so what we need to do now is decide on wedding colors and flowers and clothing. There is also the food and the wedding photographer. There will be a holographic videographer as well. So let's get cracking, Zira said with enthusiasm and excitement over this special day of her second-born daughter. The ladies dived in and talked things over as soon as Regina Vaughn arrived, with the meeting running the span of 2 hours. When all was said and done, Diana chose cream and greens as her wedding colors, so there would be greenery and white flowers everywhere. There would be crisp white tablecloths and gorgeous green centerpieces on every table. Her dress would be cream in color and had yet to be chosen, but they would be shopping for the dress the next day. After the meeting, it was time for Kinley to head back to the Meridyne Medical Training Center, so she hugged her sister and her mother, then went down to her brother Davron's room and knocked, but he wasn't there. He must be off to get his testing, so she shut the heavy wooden door, then left and caught the shuttle back to the center, leaving all wedding plans of her sister and returning to her healer training, still sending out good thoughts to her twin and whispering, "Davron, good blessings," under her breath. And that, my friends, is chapter 1. Chapter 2 is right there. It is called Florentina. Florentina is where Davron is going to take his testing. So that's pretty exciting. I will be reading chapter 2. I will do that soon. I hope everyone enjoyed the first chapter of my book, Kurson. Thank you for listening. And it is on Amazon. So if you are interested, you can definitely go and get it there. Just look up my name, Amy Cohoe, and look up Kurson, and you will find it. Okay, thank you. Have a great one.